That was the first murder I witnessed in federal prison.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Mike Marino.
How you doing, bro? My understanding, because like I said, I wasn't there. I was on a different team. I heard the commotion. Tommy picked up his knife and they used it to kill him. And in the process of that, Clay also got involved because they were doing this together. That was the plan, and then he put his work in on, and they stabbed them about 60 times, right?
Yeah.
And they got done killing him, and they wanted to pull his body down the tier as a trophy to show everyone who they had killed, and because this was like the head of the DC blacks. And the thing about Cadillac Smith is he's been he wasn't all, even though he's from Washington, D.C., not all the D.C. prisoners really liked him, because when he was young, there's a prison in Virginia that houses Washington, D.C. prisoners. It's called Lorton, and it's right across the state line in Virginia. So the inmates from Washington, D.C., where they have their own penal code in Washington. It's not all federal. People say any crime committed in D.C. is not true. That's not true. They had their own penal code. Some crimes were federal, but not all. So they had their prison, and one was called Lorton. And when they were young, they were in Lorton Youth Center. And Cadillac Smith was a sexual predator. He would knock people out, and fuck them and shit, right? Yeah. So a lot of them guys grew up and, continued to, enter into the federal prison system, and they became Muslims. And there was a point in time where they didn't want Cadillac to come to the Juma. You know what Juma is?
No.
Juma is a prayer service on Fridays for Muslims, and they go to the chapel, and it's called Juma.
They're basically gangsters too, the Muslims. I've seen them put in work on people.
Yeah. So anyway, a lot of the guys from the Muslims that were in Lewisburg didn't particularly want Cadillac in their prayer services, because they said that they remembered him from when he was in Lorton Youth Center.
Yeah.
And there's like maybe, I don't know, 8 or 10 white guys that I know that came from Washington, D.C., right? And these are pretty solid dudes, man. I mean, you have to be pretty solid, because when you went to prison in Washington, you were like maybe there was 5% of the population that were that were white. So you had to be a pretty thorough guy to survive in that system. And they used to tell me stories about him and everything, and that's how I found out about him raping all them people, when he was younger. So like I say, there were people who loved him, and they were pretty much on the same level as him as far as the things that they were, prone to do, their mindset and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so he was like, they say he was the leader, but on the one hand, but a lot of his own people were scared of him because of his reputation,
And he was a big guy, you said?
He was fairly big, yeah. He was a big dude,
Has he put in work when he was in this prison? Did he stab anybody or get into fights when he was there?
Where?
Yeah.
Aryan?
Yeah.
No, he hadn't, because there was a lot. Marion is a lockdowns facility. I mean, where we were in the control unit. This is a segregation unit. Okay, you can only come out with one other person. Okay, and you can have recreation. So like, no, he didn't do anything while he was there. But like I said, he was involved in that murder in Lewisburg. And I don't know. I mean, he's always been involved in some other uh, violent or activities in wherever he goes.
Yeah.
And he's always in trouble. He's always going to the hole. And like I say, I don't even know why he was in. I don't even know why he was in the control unit at that time. But this was like 82, 83. So this was way after the murder of that Jewish kid. So
Yeah.
I don't know what he'd actually been up to in the meantime. Like he'd been doing a lot of things, I guess.
So how long did you spend in that prison? And were
Oh,
how were the guards in there? Were they corrupt? Were they doing crazy things to the inmates?
no, 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 no. Not until they're not, nobody really mistreated the inmates. Okay. Nobody really mistreated the inmates until after Tommy and Clay killed those two guards. See, first of all, Clay, Clay and Baby Huey killed Steamboat, which was he was like a sex offender too. Okay, he was a piece of shit. I mean, that was the best murder I've ever seen in my life, man. It's wonderful. I
Can
think
you
we
walk
talked
us?
about it.
Can you
I
walk
think
me through
maybe
it? Did we?
didn't we talk about that once? When he was running around the weight machine.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, anyway, they talked him into coming out on rec. This is when they used to be able to have 3-man rec groups, right? So they talked him into joining up with. So the more people you have in rec groups you have, the more time you have out of your cell. Like if there's 10 people on this tier and all of them are reckoned separately, that's going to take up 10 hours. But if you have 3 groups of 3 people, then you might get out twice in one day. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's the consolidation of inmates wrecking together is
there's
makes that possible.
benefits. It
So
benefits you to
yeah,
rap with other people. Yeah.
so Tommy and I mean no, Clay and Baby Huey talked him and talked Steamboat into coming out on rec with them. So he signed it in front of the guard because you used to have to sign it in front of the guard so that they could see your signature that you signed it. Because if something happens, they have your signature saying that you're compatible with these people.
Now, Steamboat's a white guy.
No, it's black. He's from D.C.
Okay.
He had
And
raped two.
and and
He was there for raping 2 white boys in Leavenworth. One in general population, and one in when they got him for the first one, they put him in the hole, and when he was in the hole in Leavenworth, he raped his cell partner there. So there was 2 rapes that he had committed in Leavenworth.
no, the two people who he's are convincing him to come out to wreck are white guys, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't know. Anyway, they rocked him to sleep is what really happened, right? They got him to thinking, yeah, everything is cool. Uh, anyway, the minute they opened the doors, uh, Clay and Clay and Baby Huey came right to like what's his name? Who are we talking about here? Steamboat. He's coming out of
Steamboat.
his cell. He's coming out of his cell. He's putting one leg in his sweatpants. He's saying, wait a minute, let me put my pants on. Right? He's wearing a jock strap for some fucking reason, and he's pulling these fucking these these sweatpants on at the same time, saying, wait a minute, let me get my pants on. And that's when, the craziness started, right? And I mean, I was there. And they stabbed him, oh my God, I don't know how many times. And he kept trying to run away from him. It was a universal weight machine.
Yeah.
And he would run around the machine one way and Clay would stab him. He'd run the other way and Baby Huey would stab him. And finally, he just ran towards the door, right? And there's a regular, door with, like, it was like this. I don't know. It wasn't bars, but it's like the same type of bars that you have down the wreck cages. All right.
Yeah.
And there was a tray slot for putting foods through the tray slots for food slots. And he ran to that food slot, put his head down, and tried to get his head through that slot. Right.
And you can't fit your head through the slot. It won't go through, right?
Absolutely. So he was like his legs were moving and his head was like in the slot and he just couldn't get through that fucking thing, right? So while he's doing that, they're killing him. Wah, wah, wah. I think John said that one knife went through his head and came out the other side, right? And that they took a picture of that. I didn't get to see the whole murder. I was like in 10 cells. There's like 18 cells on range. So when he finally like took his last breath, he was all the way up at the front,
Yeah.
But anyway, and the cops were there. They wouldn't, they wouldn't open the doors while there's people stabbing somebody because they don't want to get stabbed. They wait until the work is over with and people give up their knives. So, by the way, the knives were taped onto their hands so they wouldn't drop them.
How big were these knives?
Huh? Oh, they were like, like this, like 10 inches. Basically, they were, you ever seen a metal mop bucket? Like an industrial one like they use in prisons, right? Well, they took this handle of the mop bucket. It goes over like this. They straightened it out, made two big shanks out of it, and threw it. And they put little handles on them, and they taped it to their fucking hands so they wouldn't drop them, and that was it. And when they finally got, when Steamboat took his last breath, they untaped him and threw him underneath the screen door and gave up.
Because they don't want a problem with the guards. They're just trying to take care of their work.
Yeah. And I'll never forget that afternoon, man. Like the unit manager comes around every day at lunchtime, to everybody's cell in case you have an issue you want to talk about, and when he came to my cell, I could tell he was like, you could tell he was in shock. He witnessed this whole fucking thing. His face was gray. He could barely speak. You could tell he was like in a state of shock.
Yeah.
And,
now, when this is happening, what are the people in the cell block doing? Are they yelling?
Yeah, they're saying, "Kill that fucking piece of shit." Yeah, it was wonderful, man. Nobody liked this guy, right? I mean, he was not liked at all. He was a fucking sex offender. He was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of, oh my God, man. He's one of those people that you want to bring him back to life so that you can kill him, like, damn, I missed my turn, like I hated that dude, man. He used to run his mouth from behind the doors all the time, talk a lot of shit.
And he didn't think these guys were going to do anything to him, you said.
Obviously not. He wouldn't have came out. Yeah, they rocked him to sleep, Wow. It was pretty good deal. So, yeah. So Tommy and Clay killed him. Then Little Matt and Homer Ray killed that other little black dude. No.
Here, let's take a break real quick. I got to take a piss. All right?
Take your time. Okay.
All right.
So now, the murders that took place, was in 1979. First one was Steamboat, the one I just talked about. Clay Fountain and Baby Huey did that. The next one was Little Matt and Homer Ray, killed another black dude in C range, in one of the wreck cages. Then Tommy Silverstein came.